You can go ahead.
Okay. All right. So good morning. Thank you for joining us on the data cleaning lesson today. So to jump right into it, we're going to take a look at what data cleaning actually is, what it entails. So data cleaning is the process of just identifying as well as correcting corrupt, inaccurate, or otherwise irrelevant records inside of a data set. So this involves detecting, so like finding the incorrect data, correcting it, and sometimes removing it. The ultimate goal really is to make the data accurate and consistent, just so that the data set can be useful for analysis and decision making. So, because data is really what drives like business reports and any form of forecasting, the quality of any insights gained really is only going to be as good as the input or the data that is used to develop them. So, for example, if you are dealing with data from a business and we're looking at profit values and they're entered as text instead of numbers, so the wrong data type, then the data set will become basically invalid when it comes to calculations. So you can't run any formulas on text that you would want to run for, profit metrics. So in short, the better the data, the more reliable the outcome of the system. Now, looking at data quality. When we talk about cleaning data, what we want is high quality data that meets particular criteria. So the first three are validity. So validity has to do with whether or not data follows defined business rules or constraints. So for example, going back to the data type uh, problem that we were talking about earlier. So if a field is supposed to contain like a date, but instead it has a text value, that's an invalid entry. So if you have stuff like range constraints as well, so for example, a particular age and the number is either a negative number or it's a very, very high number, one that, you wouldn't have a human age being. So think about in the 200s, 300s, then we know that that's an invalid piece of data. Similarly, we have accuracy. So that just has to do with the data reflecting reality. So for instance, just stuff as simple as entering a customer's name or a customer's phone number. If the customer's name is spelled wrong or if the phone number is incorrect, then that just means that it's inaccurate and any conclusions or anything that's done with that data is going to be wrong. Completeness has to do with making sure that every one of the required fields is actually filled. So if you're running some sort of analysis, for example, but half of the records are just, some of the records are missing, then that is going to have some impact on the insights. The insights are going to be skewed. Continuing on with the data quality metrics, so we have consistency. So consistency deals with whether or not values remain kind of uniform across different systems or data sets. So you might have multiple, like for example, Excel sheets with the same value. So let's think about an address. So in one sheet, it might say 123 King Street, but in another system, it might start with the country that the customer is from. So that's kind of inconsistent. And because of that, there might be problems linking the same information across different sheets. Now, when it comes to uniformity, this just has to do with making sure that the same units or formats are applied across data sets. So if you have a data set that has to do with sales and one data set has, or one sheet has US dollars and then the other one is in Canadian dollars, then that's not uniform data, and that can have implications for the insights that you can draw from the data and how accurate these insights are. Finally, we have integrity. So that's just the overall how trustworthy the data set is. So it's pulling together from different metrics from accuracy, consistency, and validation. So basically data sets that are like they have strong integrity, those behave predictably and produce results that you can depend on. Now, moving on to the different aspects of data cleaning. So the core aspects have to do with, first of all, handling missing data. So, for example, if a customer's postal code is blank and you want to ship something to them, that might be difficult because you have no idea where it should go. And you really can't always remove the record altogether. You can't fill it in with, random data. So it's stuff like that to make sure that you always collect the data in a thorough manner to begin with. Next, we have the issue of duplicates. So duplicate entries can inflate certain measurements, and by that, they distort the analysis. So, for example, if you log a transaction twice, so that's going to make your revenue kind of be overstated. Next, we have to do with correcting errors. So when we talk about errors, we mean stuff like just spelling mistakes and typos, category labels, even stuff like when you're doing numbers and you have misplaced the decimal point. So turning 5,000 into 50. So that will change the meaning of the entry entirely. Standardizing data. So this is just making sure that the data is the same across the board. So for example, if you have dates, making sure that the format of the date. Some places use date, month, year, some are year, month, date. So just making sure that it's the same in a particular data set. Outlier detection. So what outliers are, they're kind of unusual values that don't really fit the expected pattern. So for example, if you have a, a log of transactions, most transactions are between, let's say, $100 to $500, and then you have something that says 1 million. You know that that transaction is something that needs to be looked into. So you need to be aware of that. Data type conversions. So this is ensuring that fields are stored in the right format. So making sure that dates are stored as dates, not text strings or any other form of data. And then just validating data. So that's putting actual rules in place to make sure that data doesn't have any errors in the future. So it's possible to set up fields or columns to make sure that they only accept dates after a particular year, stuff like that. Now, data cleaning specifically in Excel, kind of comes with tools and functions that make data cleaning more automatic, less cumbersome. So, linking them back to the aspects of data cleaning that we just looked over, when it comes to detecting missing data, so Excel has filtering options that make it easy to filter for empty cells, and you can also use functions like the count blank function to just deal or to count how many gaps exist in a particular column, and when it's appropriate, how to deal with the data that is missing. So sometimes it's possible to delete the empty column. So if the missing field isn't that important, if it's, for example, like a comment section and it's not vital for analysis, then you can delete it without worrying. Sometimes it's possible to fill with placeholders. So if we have customer information missing, like a last name, sometimes it's not necessary for what you're doing. You can fill with unknown or not applicable so that it's not incomplete, but also you don't overlook it. Next, we can use calculations. So lots of Excel data is sometimes found based on formulas, based on calculations. So you can basically look at other entries and use that to figure out how a particular measurement was obtained. And then for the entry with the missing data, then you can just extrapolate that formula and apply it. Um, Next, we have finding and handling duplicates. So Excel does have a duplicates tool that you can use. It's a part of the data column, and what it does, it highlights any possible duplicates for the attention of the user, and then the user can decide if they want to delete or keep or how to handle that particular issue. Standardizing formatting is as simple as highlighting the cells and using the right click option to go to the menu. Then you have the formatting kind of toolbar, formatting menu, where you can see the different data types, the different structures that you can have a particular data type. And it's just important to make sure that everything in that column has the same kind of structure. Validating errors or preventing future errors. So that for that we have the data validation tool in Excel. What that does, that allows you to enter particular rules or like business constraints that should be followed in order to prevent future errors. So like I mentioned earlier, making sure that entries for a particular column don't if they're like if it's a date column, for example, that no dates past a certain year or month or day are entered. And then there's just highlighting errors or outliers. So we have the conditional formatting tool to highlight unusual values. So you can set constraints or you can set kind of limits to what data is perceived as normal. So if it's greater than a particular measure, less than, if it does surpass that measure or it's less than that measure, then it highlights it and you can take a look at it as the user. Now we're going to do a bit of a hands-on demonstration just to show each of these concerns in action and how to deal with them. So here we have a data set that's particularly messy. Um, so it has to do with customer names, customer types, and then there's two types of customers. So it's a regular or premium customers, the date of the membership to the particular subscription that they have, and you can see that all of the membership, they're kind of in different formats for the dates, the home branch that they deal with for the business. So is it north, south, east, or west? And then the total amount that they've spent as a member of this particular business. So the very first thing that we're going to take a look at is any missing data. And then to look at that, um, like we said, we can use the count blank option. Um, so just to go ahead and do that, to show how that works, we are going to use the formula. So it's equal count blank and then the range. So we're going to just basically take the entire data set. So that's from A1 to E76. And then once we do that, we're going to see that there are 10 blank entries. And then to actually find these blank entries, what we're going to do is just sort and filter. So custom sort and then conditional formatting, or we can actually do cell values. So from smallest to largest. We're going to start by, let's see, column B. Oh, yep. Okay, so we're going to go through and just see how we can deal with each of the blank entries. So, for example, this one, we have a blank entry in the membership column. Um, we are not quite sure how to deal with it because it's not necessarily a metric that was you can gain from a formula. Um, so what you can do is, if possible, you can mark this for deletion, or you can simply just put a placeholder. So in this case, we can put unknown. Um, Similarly, for the home branch, it's not necessarily something you can know off the top of your head. So unknown, and I think that might be the case for the total amount spent as well. Um, so date of membership. So for the customer type, sometimes there might be business rules that determine if it's a regular customer or a premium customer. So possibly the amount of money that they spend with the business. So in this case, all right. Now the next particular option that you could take a look at is using a find and replace function. So first off, we go into the toolbar in the home section, editing, and then we're going to go to replace. So find, we have the replace function here. What we can do is we can just leave that blank because we're looking for cells that are empty. And then we can replace it with the, I guess, relevant placeholder. So right now we're using unknown. And then because it's only a small amount, I'm gonna go with the find next feature. But if it's a case where there are a lot of entries that are blank, it's easy to use the find all. Okay, so it's necessary to highlight the relevant cells in the table, and then you're gonna go to the find and replace feature. So here we go. And then what we're going to find is we can leave that blank because we're looking for the blank entries. And then we're going to just go find next. So here we have this one highlighted here. And then we can just keep going across because, like I said, we can replace. Now we can replace all. And with that, all of the empty entries have been handled. So the next factor we need to look at is any duplicates. So what we're going to go to is we're going to look at data, and we can look at the conditional formatting. So we're going to look at that. Um, so it's highlight cell rules, and then we're going to look at duplicate values. That's what we're going to choose. And the major thing to look out for is any values that are completely highlighted in red straight across. Sometimes there might be a particular customer or two customers with the same name or similar names, other metrics that are similar. So they might be highlighted, but that isn't the main measure. it's just to see when everything is similar. So right now, it doesn't look like there's anything to be concerned about regarding that. So we can just clear the rules from the cells in order to make it more easy to look at. Now, inconsistent text formatting, there are a lot of inconsistencies across this data set. So what we're going to look at first is the customer name tab. And here we can see that when it comes to the customer name, we have first name and last name, but not everybody has a last name. So for example, in this entry, entry 13, entry 21, some of the entries have commas between, so it's very inconsistent. So what we're going to do is we are going to split this into first and last name. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this this column, and then we're going to go to the data tab. We're going to see text to column, and then we're going to say it's delimited. So we have what delimited means is we have just something separating the values. So sometimes it's a space, sometimes it's a comma. Next, we're going to choose space and comma because, like I said, it's those are the things separating the values. And then once we do that, the column data format, it's going to be a text format. And then we can go ahead and, oh, actually going back to do that again. Um, the destination, we are going to actually change the destination. So right now it's an absolute reference, which means that it's not going to change. But if we don't, if it stays in that manner, then it's going to replace existing data. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the destination B2. So that is going to, or we can just make an empty row. So we just made an empty row that is, we can put the information there. So going again, highlighting this column, and then we can make the destination actually the A column. Okay, and here we have the customer and their names. So Jane Taylor, Kevin Garcia, first name and last name, and then you can change the heading. Now, continuing on from the issue with formatting and data types, here we have customer type. It's very inconsistent. So there are two types of customers, premium and regular. Some have just R for regular, some have REG, some have the word. Same for premium, some have P, some have PRE, and then some have the full type. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another find and replace function. So here we have, we're going to highlight the whole column, and then we are going to use the replace tool. So we can deal with, say, the R. and then making sure that we don't have to match the case just because there is we don't have to match the case just because that's not necessary for this one, but we're going to make sure it matches the entire cell contents because if not, then any entry with a R character in it would be affected. So we are going to replace that with regular. So 18 replacements were made, and then we can go ahead and do the same. And here we have 26 replacements being made. And then we had 12 replacements being made when we did the REG. And then it's a similar concept for the premium customers. So replacing P with the word premium, which was 13 replacements, replacing the lowercase, and then replacing the first three letters with the whole thing. And then here we have consistency in this column. Now, as far as the date of the membership goes, we're going to once again highlight the whole column and we are going to format the cells. Now, there was no specification made as to which format to be used. So it's fine to just, let's choose, for example, this one. So we're going to go with the day first, and then the month, then the year. And there's a bit of issues with the formatting, though it's formatted as a date. Okay, not sure why that issue is occurring, but I can demonstrate it on this column. So once again, we're going to go to format cells, and because it's a number, we are going to want, or because it's currency, we're going to want two decimal places and a dollar sign at the beginning. Okay, so here it's stored as a currency. So here there's more consistency in there. And then for the home branch, we're also going to just go ahead and do the same find and replace function that we did earlier. So we're gonna replace S with south and with north, E with east, and W with west. And you can make considerations for the case as well. And so, except for the issue regarding this particular column, relatively, okay. So the issue has to do with the way that the data set was downloaded. So to rectify it, what is going to happen is I'm going to highlight the entire date of membership column, and then I'm going to go to the data tab and use the text to column tools. So we're going to keep it delimited and make sure that all the delimiters are unselected. And then for the column data format in the next step, I'm going to select the date option and then make my format into the one I want. So I'm interested in the DMY format, so that's what I'm going to choose and then finish that. And then once I do that, then everything has been converted to a date. However, it's still generally inconsistent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to Format Cells, and then choose the format that I need. So, like I said, I'm interested in the DMY format, which is this one right here. So, choosing that, everything has been converted. Okay, so just to make it easier to see, we're going to format it in the March 14, 2012 format. So with the word for the month, just to make it more visible. So doing that, this is our result. And to align the column, we're going to go into the Home tab, press the Align Right button, and it should come out like this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to make the cells in the consistent format. So we're just going to we're going to select the whole column, right click, go to format cells, and then it's going to open this menu pop-up. And then we can just choose one that is most ideal. So we're going to work with the month, day, year format. So choosing that one, this is what we have. And you can consider the data for the date of membership cleaned. And I think with that, the major issues with the dataset have been addressed. Um, Other than that, it's just making sure that the formatting is consistent, so everything is aligned and justified in a consistent manner. Um, Making sure the headings are bold and the visual formatting is the same. All right, and that's the end of this particular presentation. Um, After that one, I can move on to